So recently I stated before that an overrated band doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad band. This is something that I've stated several times, and I'm going to bring you a list video. This is a top 5 video of top 5 overrated metal bands that I actually like. Now, I did a list before like this before. I did like a list of bands that are overrated that I do like, but they were rock and metal. But this list will be exclusively metal, so Breaking Benjamin will not be on the list. um, and if I were to make a list of like just overrated metal bands in general, this would be a ridiculously long video considering there's also bands like Disturbed and Five Finger Death Punch that are more in the mainstream that I think are very overrated and I'm not a fan of either. But yeah, but these are 5 bands that I do like, but I just think that they get a little too much credit, too much recognition than they deserve, in my opinion. So yeah, let's get started. First up, we got Trivium. Now, some of you guys might be surprised that I do have Trivium on this list. I do like Trivium, of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the list. But they're one of those bands that I just think, yeah, they're a great band, but there's nothing really about them that makes me mind blown, if you know what I mean. There's nothing, I guess, really so like emotionally gripping about their music or anything. Maybe other than a few exceptions, but um, yeah, I don't know why there's people that really take this band as seriously as they do. Um, you could call them metalcore, but I don't know. I know there's debates on whether or not they are metalcore, but considering that they weren't one of the pioneers, it's crazy to see how popular these guys are. And that's not to say that I don't think that they don't deserve any popularity, because they definitely do. I think they're a good band, but I don't know. I just think sometimes the band's attitudes are pretty pretentious as well. Matt Heafy posts a lot on Instagram, and yeah, overrated band in my opinion. But again, I do think they're a good band. But yeah, I haven't been a Trivium fan for so long. Maybe I have no nostalgic value for this band whatsoever. Maybe I'm just looking through um, as someone who's kind of like a newer fan. I've been a fan since 2017, so yeah. But nonetheless, I had to put Trivium on the list. Next band up, we got Killswitch Engage. Now, I always thought Killswitch Engage was an overrated band. Now, this was actually a band that I tried to get into. I think it was 2015 when I first tried getting into them, and I just wasn't digging it at first. I don't know what it was, but I just wasn't feeling it with that band. And yeah, I do think they are overrated, but I of course do think they're a great band. Usually when it comes to like whenever people talk about metalcore, Killswitch Engage is a band that's like bound to be mentioned in a metalcore discussion, whether if it's like two people talking in a public place, or in a comment section on YouTube, or uh, some kind of social media chat or something. I don't know. Um, Killswitch Engage is usually brought up when people are talking about metalcore, and for this reason, I had to put them on the list because I do think they're overrated. I don't think they're as good as other metalcore acts, of course, but um, I do like Killswitch Engage. I do think they're a great band. I think both vocalists are very good. Yeah, I think I did put Killswitch Engage on the last list. I can't remember if I did. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, definitely one of the more overrated metalcore bands, but I do like them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the list. Next band up, we got Slipknot. Now, I think anyone can pretty much agree Slipknot is an overrated band. And it is pretty crazy to see how popular this band is, considering that their sound isn't really too mainstream. Because their music is pretty heavy to be considered mainstream. Obviously, I'm talking as far as like their older material, which I think is their best material. I think their best material comes from like their first couple of albums. Um, the Gray Chapter, is obviously more mainstream, but yeah, I do think Slipknot is rather overrated. Not really a band I listen to a whole lot. I know they're coming out with a new album later on this year, which I am excited for. But I don't think this band is the greatest metal band like a lot of people say they are. Um, I think for one, they take forever to release albums. Now they don't take as long as a band like Tool, which by the way, Tool is not on this list. But Slipknot, they've been out since the '90s, and they only have 5 albums out right now. So what's the deal with that? I have no clue. But yeah, pretty obvious. Slipknot had to be on the list. They are new metal, and I know new metal is reasonably popular. Um, so yeah, let's move on to the next band. Next band up, we got In Flames. Now, some of you are looking at me like, "What? Really? In Flames?" Yeah. I had to put In Flames on the list, mainly because they're a band that's pretty well known in the metal community. Like, if you're a metalhead, I'm sure you've heard the name In Flames a few times. If not, maybe you are a fan of them. But I would consider myself a fan of In Flames as well, even though some albums from them are some are very iffy and some are just not good at all. But yeah, In Flames had to make the list. And I wouldn't really consider them my favorite band or anything, or one of my favorite bands. Um, I think maybe if it was still 2017, I would have considered them one of my favorite bands, because 2017, as you guys know, was my mellow death year. I like to call it, like that's when I got into that subgenre more. But obviously, I'm just found better stuff as time kind of went on. But yeah, like I said, I still would consider myself an In Flames fan. I do think they're overrated, though, to be honest. I think they're like the biggest melodeath band ever. Um, and I think for that reason, I had to put them on the list. Um, Again, very good bands, but there's just better bands out there, in my opinion. And I don't think they deserve all like the recognition that they're getting. All right, so last band up, we got Metallica. Now, some of you might be very surprised that I have Metallica on this list, and some of you not so much. And I think some people might agree that Metallica is an overrated band. Now, when it comes to like classic metal bands, like bands that have been around for a long time, like Metallica, I usually wouldn't have on lists like these because it is usually the classic bands that are the biggest heavy metal bands, and I do think that for the most part they do deserve it. But I don't know, Metallica, I know that they're thrash metal, and I know they are considered the number one biggest heavy metal band of all time. And I think for that reason, that's like really the only reason why I have to put Metallica on the list. Like, of all bands to be the biggest metal band, like Metallica. Now, again, I do like Metallica a lot. I think they're a great band, just really great band. But I mean, I just think there's better bands. Again, just like within Flames, I think there's just better bands out there. I mean, if this was a world run by me, the biggest heavy metal band would be like Iron Maiden or something, or Black Sabbath. But yeah, Metallica, while I do think they're great, I don't think they deserve the number one heavy metal band of all time spot, which is why I had to put them on the overrated band list. Yeah, definitely they've definitely come out with some great material. Don't get me wrong, definitely a band I like a lot. Definitely one of my favorite thrash metal bands. I know that's rather mainstream to say, but yeah. But what can I say? I do think they're overrated, even though I do like them. Well, there you go, guys. That is a list of heavy metal bands that I think are overrated, and these are bands I do like. So I want to hear from you guys. What are some bands that you like that you're willing to admit are overrated? Please let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of my list. Do you agree with my list? Let me know. So with that said, thanks for watching, have a nice day, and take care.